Alright, so not gonna lie, I've been wanting to make this video for a while. In fact, I even rewrote this video just because I really wanted to get my thoughts out as clearly as possible. So don't click away, but seriously hear me out. As the video title says, the 2012 movie The Avengers and the entire MCU collection has got to be one of the most overrated cinematic franchises I have ever seen. Please understand that I don't hate the movie or the franchise, nor am I saying that you shouldn't enjoy it. It's a piece of art. You'll like it, hate it, or not care. I wanted to make this video because it's important for us as filmmakers and writers to be able to look at any movie, brush away all the hype attention, the ridiculous amounts of praise, and instead give it an honest watch and critique it just like you would with any other movie. So that's what I'm doing here. I want us to give a hard look at the Avengers to see what's good about it, what they did wrong, and more importantly, what can we take away from this? Keep in mind that I have not read the comics, nor do I care to reference them. I am simply judging the movie for what it is. As a matter of fact, this is actually another problem with these overrated movies, is when there's a boo-boo in, say, the storytelling or the world building, and then the fans are like, but in the comics, Captain America has this thing. In the comics, Iron Man can do that. Or, in the books, the Force actually can heal, transport things, and magically defeat the Sith. And don't worry, we'll talk about Star Wars at some point. Oh, yes we will. Point is, I don't want to hear, nor do I care, about anything regarding the comics. The movie should deliver all the information you require right then and there, but we'll cover this further in detail. While the Avengers has some cool characters, fun fight scenes, and the odd joke here and there, it does have its fair share of issues. Trust me, a lot of issues. I was honestly going to include like my entire list of notes, but I decided that it would be boring, and instead we'll condense it into just a few key categories. However, if you really want to see my true breakdown, become a Patreon supporter to get access to special content like this. So let's take a deeper look at Disney's The Avengers. Part 1. Now I just want to get this out of the way because it actually was the worst, most god-awful thing about this movie that never should have existed, and it's what made this movie so bad it's funny. These aircraft carriers suck. So first, when the Avengers are on board, they try to do this fancy thing where random orders are given out and people are moving and such, but when you think about it, and I mean really think about it, what on earth are these people doing? I'm going to make a quick comparison to the USS Enterprise from Star Trek The Next Generation. Look, I like the show. If you prefer the original, fine. Look at the bridge on the most advanced ship to ever leave Earth. You don't see dozens of people all over the place. You see, what, 6, 7, 8, or 9 at most? Now, this could be to the budgeting reasons, but I think it's actually a really smart tactic. Also, you become very familiar with several of these positions simply by establishing their tasks. You have the captain, the first officer or first mate, the counselor, tactical officer, and then everyone else. But also notice that the ones that do kind of whatever are in the background. It's simple to understand. You know who does what, including the fact that you have the captain, who is the one in charge. First officer carries out the orders of the captain. Tactical does battle intel, leads anything to do with combat. Counselor does, well, counseling. And then if you watch the show, then you get to know more of what everyone else does. It's simple, it's consistent, it makes sense. Let's look at the crew of whatever ship this is called, I can't remember. What the heck are these guys doing? All I see is a bunch of people typing, pointing, calling out commands without any context, so I can't really believe in this world when there's nothing to believe. It's just, oh, do this, do that, I don't care, just make it look cool. This is called world building, which is something you hear often in fantasy, but it applies to every genre and storytelling medium. What do we understand about this world? If you don't want to go through the trouble of having to totally figure out the ins and outs of parts of your world building, that's totally fine. But then have it in the background to not draw attention instead of front and center in several of their own shots. Plus, it doesn't help that Samuel Jackson is also giving orders. Isn't he supposed to be in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Why not someone else captain the ship? Show that you have a captain who's solely taking care of the ship so that Mr. McFury over here just deals with the plot. Easy. Now, the other thing that offends me about the ship is the fact that it literally has the worst defense and safety protocols since the Titanic. A simple plane found the ship, fired at it, hijacked the ship, and left without any form of resistance from the carrier itself. What the heck? If the Avengers weren't there, they'd all be dead. This ship should have cannons, guns, and a fighting crew on standby, ready to hop in their jets and take to the skies in case of an attack. Also, your ship is going down. What kind of a backup protocol is it to, quote, put it on the left, technically turn right into so it falls into the water? Ever heard of this thing called abandoned ship? if you really wanted to make this sequence really impactful, then you should have Hawkeye strategize an attack plan. Next, the ship defends itself while the Avengers are told to sit back. Then Hawkeye manages to sneak on board and cause mayhem. And when the situation becomes too much, then you get the Avengers. I mean, I could go on and on and on about all these absolutely stupid things, like why isn't Loki guarded? Why is there no alarm when Captain America enters a top secret room? Why is there no backup generators when one of the engine thingies stopped working? Why is there a council who do absolutely nothing but talk in an attempt to kill all of New York and the Avengers? Why is there no backup plan or protocol to deal with Loki and the Hulk in case, oh, I don't know, crap hits the fan? Like, this character just leaves you with so many questions and answers. This is bad world building. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't work, and it's not believable. Part 2. Marvel doesn't do battles too well. The main issue is that the fight scenes don't tell us anything important about the story or the characters. Good fights are character developments, but instead of dialogue, you use action. So for example, the studio thinks that the audience should just imagine how special these heroes and villains are when there's absolutely nothing to compare them with. It's hard to believe that these soldiers are some of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s most highly trained soldiers when they get their butts kicked so easily. Loki isn't leaving an impact. Loki's fighting style isn't impressive. I can't believe that Loki is a better fighter when all we see him doing is taking out random soldiers that we know nothing about. Instead, why couldn't Loki use a more tactful approach, like using his ability to project false images of himself to throw off everyone and then make a surprise attack? It's not like he hasn't done this before. Then you could have Tony use Jarvis to be able to predict Loki's movements in order to defeat him again. It's not like he won't be using this tactic later in the near future. Here's another one. It's hard for me to look up to Captain America as a leader when he hasn't done anything to prove that, and kicking alien teeth isn't how it's done. Imagine if Captain America just stood on the car while the police are questioning him and all he says is, well, 'cause I'm better than you. It doesn't make an impact. Captain America is supposed to be a leader. So why isn't he leading? Why can't he work alongside with the police? Why can't he go up and ask what he can do to help? Like seriously, imagine if one of the strongest, most famous heroes goes out to the local authorities and offers to help. Just having him punch better or whatever doesn't tell us anything about his character aside from the fact that he just kind of likes to show off. Going back to how our heroes and villains don't look impressive when they're beating random stunt doubles, let's use another example to compare. Ever seen this Jackie Chan movie called Who Am I? If you haven't watched it, go see it, it's great. Jackie's character at one point is faced with two other guys who each overpower him, but over the course of the fight, Jackie is able to defeat the first opponent, then hold his own against the second one, and then he takes on both of them at the same time until Jackie manages to knock them both out. This is a fight where Jackie looks cool because we see his obstacles and how he overcame them. He looks cool. Ever wanted to pick a fight with Tom Cruise? Probably not, considering the years of dangerous stunt work he's done. Ever played a game where you're fighting someone who's the same level as you or lower? It's pretty easy to fight that opponent, and then you think that you're tough until you fight an opponent who's at a much higher level than you and can decrease your health with like one hit. That's how this feels. The Avengers characters and villains don't deserve to look cool because not only do they not earn it, but they haven't showed us anything impressive. They could be hitting floating punching bags for all I care, which, let's be honest, most of the time that's what they're doing. If you want another example, go watch My Hero Academia, where they do this sort of thing all the time extremely well, where you don't just guess how powerful a character is, they show you. They accomplish things that literally take your breath away. I get it, that these fight scenes are fun to watch, but the problem is that there's a lot of hype without an impact. It keeps our attention, but is totally forgettable. If you remove these fight scenes and just gave the challenges a diplomatic approach, nothing would change. Part 3. Now, I'll go into perhaps my number one biggest issue with the entire franchise overall that the Avengers does to the max. To say that the Marvel franchise is just another revenue of income for Marvel and the Disney Corporation would be a seriously big understatement. These movies don't just need to make money, they have to make a massive crap ton of money. You're competing against other superhero franchises like DC and X-Men, and that's not even including other superhero franchises overseas. Marvel and overall the Disney Corporation are trying to be as careful as possible that when they're spending money, they need to make that money back tenfold. Think about the risks of not just making the Avengers, but the entire franchise as a whole. You're getting the rights to a character and a story. You're hiring some of the most top, most well-known actors on the planet to bring in as much of an audience as possible, and we haven't even touched on the real expenses of making a movie. The last thing that the studio execs, producers, and directors want to make is a mistake that costs the studio money. It's a movie that's trying to play it safe. Do the fights have to make sense and leave an impact? Nope. They just have to look cool. Does the tone of the movie need to pull in the audience? Nope. It just needs to look pretty. Do we need to spend hundreds of hours researching and crafting the world building? Nope. Just throw in some cliche mumbo jumbo, make it big, and talk about how impressive your stuff is.
We're sweeping every wirelessly accessible camera on the planet. Cell phones, laptops. If it's connected to a satellite, it's eyes and ears for us.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's illegal, buddy. Part 4. Alright, I've talked about a lot of things that the movie did wrong. Now, let's talk about one massive saving grace about this movie, and pretty much most of the franchise. Their cast. Remember when I talked about how the studio got some of the biggest talents in the world? That's what you have. Seriously, when you have like at least 2 of the actors in the same room and they're just talking without fighting or mumbo jumbo, the scenes are actually incredible to watch. Look, watch the scene between Loki and Natasha. Maybe it's just me, but I genuinely feel the hair sticking up on the back of my neck kind of creepy vibe, but that's because Tom Hiddleston is one of the most ridiculously talented actors on the planet. Or my favorite scene is the dialogue between Bart, post-brainwash, and Natasha, talking about how they were spies trained to deal with bad guys around the world, but are actually feeling afraid and intimidating when dealing with gods and beings with tech power, science power, or fantastic powers. For normal humans with expert training, they feel like noobs. This scene isn't just great acting and mostly good dialogue, but you have your heroes struggling. They have an obstacle that they need to overcome, aka character development. If this movie removed just about all its cliche boring fight scenes and just had the actors talk, this movie would have made a whole lot more sense and would have made a much bigger impact, because you're letting your talented actors do what they do best, which is acting. However, you didn't come here to see a diplomatic discussions between humans and aliens, you came for the... So, look, again, I'm not saying this movie is terrible, but it's far from being anywhere close to a perfect movie. Even great might be a bit of a stretch. It's what I think of as a Saturday morning flick, which is a movie you see as soon as you get out of bed, wakes you up, you don't have to worry about feeling scared, angry, sad, or any kind of emotion, because it's not going to leave you with anything. So you can forget it and go throughout the rest of your day. And that's okay. There's plenty of movies that have done that and have also been successful. There's still a few things that we can take away from this movie as filmmakers, but just make sure you're careful watching a movie with a lot of hype, that you still judge it for what it is and not get swept away with all the hype. So there you have it. Thanks so much for watching this entire video. I hope we can agree on at least some of the points. If you disagree or agree or want to add anything else to this conversation, I encourage you, please add it down to the comment section. I'd love to talk to you more about this, right? Where this is about improving ourselves as writers and as filmmakers. If you want to see my full breakdown of the Avengers, meaning the good, the bad, and everything in between, please become a Patreon supporter. I include that for all Patreon supporters down in the description below. And please make sure to like this video and subscribe, because I got videos coming out all the time. Good luck with your writing, and go and enjoy the Avengers if you do. They are fun to watch. Good luck with your movies, and I'll see you next time.